Constitutional carry. What happens when you no longer need a permit to carry your concealed firearm? We're going to break that down with top criminal defense attorney Tom Grieve. He's here with us. But stick around all the way to the end of this video because we have a gun giveaway that you can enter for free, but it ends soon. Hi, I'm Kevin Michalowski, Director of Content here at the U.S. Concealed Carry Association. If you're new to this channel, we help you prepare for everything before, during, and after a deadly force incident. Now let's get into this video on this topic, constitutional carry. Tom, all over the place. 18 states currently have constitutional carry. Iowa and Tennessee are coming on board July 1st, so we're getting up into the 20s now. That's almost half.
That's almost half.
So constitutional carry, what I like to remind people is just because you don't need a permit doesn't mean that the self-defense laws change. It's just that the state has removed your requirement to learn those laws. So I'm still telling people to get a permit, despite the fact that constitutional carry is a thing. What do you think?
Right. Well, look, in general, I'm tremendously in favor of constitutional carry laws. I think that that's only a good thing. However, like anything else in life, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Mm-hmm. And the wrong way is something that gets you in prison or underground. The right way is what keeps you on the right side of the law and above ground, the right side of the ground as well. Mm-hmm. And I think you really touched on in your intro there, one of the biggest issues that I see, and when I say I see as a former state prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, it's that people who don't get a permit and don't go through any kind of training, that's one of the quickest ways to become a client, mm-hmm. is to not expose yourself to the best education, training, and resources as you possibly can. And as a result, you don't have the proper kind of threat detection, if you will, of what's a bad situation, what's a good situation. And many of us kind of have that, some of us are just kind of skeptical, cynic types. And, it's like, well, why would I be out after 6 o'clock at night? So, and come on.
I also think it's really important for people to know when they can use deadly force legally in their state. And I'm sure I'll probably get some calls or emails or something like that because I said I'm still recommending that people get a permit. The reason I recommend that people get a permit is because you may be in a state, you may be living in a state that has constitutional carry right now, but you want to go somewhere else. And if you want to travel with your firearm, which I recommend, carry your gun every place you can legally carry your gun, you might need your state permit to go to another state that doesn't have constitutional carry. Now, there will be a discussion of, well, I'm going to get on that government watch list or whatever. I shouldn't have to get a permit. Right. I agree with all of those arguments, in principle. There is what is right and what is fair and what is, legal or whatever. And then there is what is. This is how things are happening out there. So from your perspective, when somebody carries a gun without a permit, they should still have some training. I'm assuming you're going to say that. I'll give you that softball question. Why? Yeah. Why should they do that?
So they don't become a client.
Yeah.
I mean, very simply. And even if you have the greatest education and training, there's obviously no guarantee to anything in life. However, there's a tremendous difference between just catapulting yourself through a field of mistakes and bad decision making that was all 100% avoidable.
Yeah.
With the proper exposure to these concepts and these ideas ahead of time, and then reinforcing both those concepts in the training by more training, mm-hmm. As opposed to, making a forced error, if you will, of, I was out because I had to go get medicine for my sick wife and kids. So, and the only pharmacy is 24 hours was on the wrong side of town. And, I was in the drive-through line and, on and on and on. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a forced error that you're in at that point. Like you could kind of see the mistake you were making, but you know what? Your 6-month-old is crying and mm-hmm. Fever of 105. What are you going to do? Or, well, maybe not 105, but 100, 102.
Yeah.
We'll go 102.
You have to get out there and you end up in a situation where, you might need to take action. You need to understand what that is. And that here in the state of Wisconsin, I always had a big issue with the idea that you could get your concealed carry permit with your hunter education card. And I took my hunter education class when I was 12. And I remember them saying absolutely nothing about self-defense or the self-defense laws of the state at the time. So a lot of people were getting that permit without understanding even the concept of what an imminent deadly threat was.
Or your DD-214. I mean, with military service, there were a number of workarounds. And I entirely agree that, look, just taking the most self-interested, I mean, because we can come up with arguments of like, well, you want to protect people around you because, if you don't handle things properly or if you don't, understand, target isolation and everything else, you're going to pose at least something of a threat, even though maybe a well-intentioned threat because you're trying to stop the bad guy, but you just lack the tools to do that in the safest manner possible. That's all fine. Those arguments write themselves. But if you really break this down, the best argument, I think, for many folks is the argument of this is about self-preservation at the end of the day. This is about keeping yourself above ground and out of prison, period. That's what this really comes down to, because you have to see all the different mistakes that are out there, and you have to know where the lines are to know whether or not, boy, I'm not going to step on that landmine of a legal issue, or I'm not going to cross that legal line in the sand. But how can you do that if you don't know where they are, you don't know what they are?
Yeah, I think it comes down pretty quickly, and this might end up being a short video when we say the fact that just because you don't need a permit, and don't get me wrong, folks, I'll look right at the camera and say this. It's great that the government is getting out of the situation where they're stopping you or they're impeding you from protecting yourself. I want everyone to be able to protect themselves and not have to have a permission slip from the government. But the truth of the matter is that even though you don't need that permission slip, even though you don't need that little card that says you may now participate in your Second Amendment rights, you still need the training. You still need to understand, because the laws are still going to apply. You still need the education and the training. I love the way you say that, the right side of the law and the right side of the dirt. You don't want to end up crossing up either of those, because that destroys everything. And even without the permit, I guess we're going in a circle now. We still want to have the training. And I always ask this question of you, and you're probably getting tired of it. What's the worst that can happen? What's going to happen?
Wrong side of the law, wrong side of the dirt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very simply it. If you were going to be stopped from carrying it without a permit, in most states or in many states, that's a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to downplay the significance of a misdemeanor and what upwards of a year in jail and maybe tens of thousands of dollars in fines, what that can mean to you personally, financially, you name it. But generally speaking, a homicide's a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you were motivated by the misdemeanor, I don't see why you wouldn't be motivated by the homicide charge or the negligent homicide charge or the manslaughter charge or whatever it's worded in your particular area. So I always feel like this is an issue of either people failing to think through what the issues are or misjudging how badly their life will go.
Yeah.
And as a criminal defense attorney who talks to people who, through one path or another, their life isn't what they wanted it to be typically by the time they get to me. This is an arena you really, really, really want and need to stay out of. Not only for you, but your future you, your spouse or your future spouse, your kids or your future kids, your employer, your loved ones, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your everyone. Because everything that's bad that's going to come your way, it's going to hit them as well.
Yeah. And way back in the old days, when, prior to 2011, when we instituted the law for concealed carry permits here in the state of Wisconsin, back, I went through the police academy in 2005, and my field training officer used to say something, I want to make sure that I get this correctly, was that dealing with concealed weapons, if you use your concealed weapon properly, the least of your problems is that you were carrying a concealed weapon. If you used your concealed weapon improperly, the least of your problems was that you were carrying a concealed weapon. And just like you said, that it was a misdemeanor prior to 2011. It was a misdemeanor carrying a concealed weapon. And if you used it improperly, boy, that's a bad felony.
Right. And obviously there's many both jurisdictions and places where it can be a felony, school grounds, post offices, you name it. There's tons of restricted places. Check your local listings. And this gets back to, you got to know what these laws are. You got to know where the lines are. You got to know where the landmines are. And I can think of the landmines as, what are the common mistakes that people make who maybe are well-intentioned, but they just didn't know any better, versus the people who are intentionally seeing that line and crossing it. And if you don't have your eyes and ears open, you're going to step in those landmines. Look, we represent good people on a bad day.
Yeah.
That's what our firm does. We're the largest criminal defense firm in our state. We're not out there. You think of criminal defense attorneys, you think of, Lord knows how many Hollywood shows come to mind. A lot of their clients are kind of this seedy group and so forth. We represent good people on a bad day. Murphy's Law is unfortunately very, very real. And you can find yourself talking to your criminal defense attorney someday, not because of one catastrophic decision, but because of a series of small ones that were all 100% avoidable. Maybe it's a large catastrophic decision. Maybe it's several. Don't get me wrong, but oftentimes for good people, who aren't the type to go get liquored up and raise havoc at 2 a.m. or something like that. And I'm not saying that that's just because someone does that on occasion makes them evil. I'm not suggesting that at all. But you can run into issues that will change your life forever and irreversibly.
Yeah.
Know what those issues are.
Yeah, absolutely. And we like to say that we make responsibly armed Americans around here, and being responsible, first step is education and training. That's where it begins, whether or not you need or whether or not you do get a permit or it's required. So, well, thank you very much for that insight, Tom. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Folks, I want to thank you for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Now, as promised, click in the link down in the description, and we have a free gun giveaway. It's going to go away soon, so click on the link. We'll show you which gun you can have a chance to win. I'm Kevin Michalowski, Director of Content here at the U.S. Concealed Carry Association. If you like these videos, subscribe to this channel and click on that notification bell. We'll notify you every time we come out with a new video. Until then, stay safe.